They handed her a trophy with their right hand and drove the knife in with their left. But Emily Carter didn't come here to play along. She came to end the game, on her terms. The ballroom at the Hilton in Midtown Manhattan sparkled with corporate glamour. Blue spotlights lit the stage like a Broadway debut. Champagne flutes shimmered. Executives posed. The whole evening screamed celebration, or so it seemed. Emily Carter stood backstage, calm on the surface, calculated underneath. Her dress was sleek, her hair perfect. Her expression? Executive serenity, honed from a decade of boardrooms and betrayal. But tonight wasn't about applause. Tonight was about closure. The MC's voice boomed through the speakers. Let's welcome the architect of our greatest comeback, the visionary behind Ravel Systems' resurgence. Please give it up for Emily Carter. Applause exploded like fireworks. The spotlight found her. She stepped into it like a ghost reclaiming her stage. The award was beautiful, crystal, heavy. Her name etched beneath the words, Excellence in Innovation. She accepted it with a graceful nod. Just as she turned to face the audience, Vivian Sloan emerged stage left. VP of People Operations. Red lips, perfect smile, predator poise. In her hands, a slim ivory envelope, unmarked, unreadable. She leaned in. Just making sure you have clarity. Moving forward, Vivian whispered, syrupy smooth. Emily took the envelope. She didn't need to open it. She'd already seen it days before, accidentally leaked by a junior associate. Inside, a termination letter. Signed, sealed, effective immediately. They thought this was her send-off. It was her signal. Award in one hand, termination in the other, and not a flicker on her face, because they had no idea. The real system was already gone. The real Emily was just getting started. She hadn't meant to overhear, but once she knew the truth, there was no unhearing it. From that moment on, Emily Carter stopped believing in applause. 3 weeks before the ceremony, the hallway outside the 32nd floor boardroom was quiet. Too quiet. Emily had arrived 10 minutes early for the executive strategy session. She paced slowly, coffee in hand, planning her talking points. Then she paused. The boardroom door was cracked open. Inside, Mark Benson's voice, low and biting. She thinks closing Centratech gives her the right to reinvent whole company? Vivian Sloan responded, cool and controlled. She's brilliant, yes, but leaders don't make people nervous. Emily does. Mark gave a sharp laugh, like glass breaking. We'll give her the award. Let her have her night. Then we cut her clean. Emily froze. Not a sound, not a breath. She stood like a ghost between a glass wall and corporate betrayal. She wasn't shocked by the backstab. She was shocked by how precise it was. 11 years, countless nights, she had saved this company from the brink, and now they were writing her out of her own story. She didn't cry. She didn't storm in. She did something far more dangerous. She started planning. She saved the company from collapse, but in their eyes, she was never leadership material, just another brilliant tool who stopped being manageable. Ravel Systems had been gasping for air. Budgets cut, clients fleeing, morale gone. And when the board looked the other way, Emily Carter stepped in. She rewrote the system architecture in one weekend, took over broken sprint plans, held the engineering team together with caffeine, grit, and one brutal promise. We don't go down on my watch. She brokered the Centratech deal when no one else could even explain the product roadmap. She didn't dress for politics. She didn't talk in buzzwords, but she delivered. And when Ravel started breathing again, when revenue ticked up, when investors returned, they looked around for a poster child for the comeback. They didn't choose her. Emily's technically brilliant, Vivian had said once, with a polished smile. But does she inspire people? Inspire? Emily had inspired a burned-out team to rebuild an entire platform on fumes and faith. She had inspired Centratech to bet $800 million on a company no one believed in. But she didn't play the game. She didn't laugh at the right jokes or linger in hallway chats. So to them, she wasn't leadership. She was a liability with a resume. And that was their mistake. Because Emily hadn't come to be liked. She came to build something that would outlive them all. Centratech didn't just buy the product. They demanded the person behind it. And when that person was Emily Carter, Ravel Systems had a choice: protect their power or protect their future. The call came on a Wednesday morning, San Francisco number. Amanda Reeves, Chief Innovation Officer at Centratech. Her voice was crisp, no small talk. We've reviewed everything. The platform's solid, but our condition is non-negotiable. Emily Carter leads the project, personally. Emily stared at her screen. She barely breathed. It wasn't just a contract. It was validation. No politics, no positioning, just results. She delivered the news at the next executive meeting. Mark Benson blinked slowly. Vivian Sloan didn't flinch, but her jaw tightened. Clients don't dictate internal org structure, Mark said, trying to sound measured. Emily looked him straight in the eye. This isn't a typical deal. This saves us. Vivian nodded, carefully. But she didn't look at Emily, and Emily saw it then, clear as day. They weren't proud. They were afraid, not of failure, but of losing control. Emily wasn't supposed to be the face of Ravel's comeback. She was supposed to be the hands, the ghost behind the machine. Now she had a name, a condition, a spotlight, and that made her dangerous. From that moment on, Emily knew she wasn't in their plan. But that was fine, because she was already building her own. They thought she didn't know, but when Emily Carter saw the knife coming, she didn't scream. She built armor. She called it Aegis. Silence has a sound. The look in Vivian's eyes, the skipped meetings, the sudden exclusions. Emily didn't need an official memo. She felt it in her bones. They were coming for her. But she didn't wait. That night, she pulled out a laptop from the back of an old filing cabinet, not company-issued, untouched by Ravel's IT surveillance. That's when Aegis was born. Not a copy, not a backup, a reinvention, from scratch. Emily didn't clone the platform she built for Ravel. She rebuilt it, leaner, faster, cleaner, using her code, her tools, her rules. No replication, no trace, no dependence, she whispered to herself as her fingers danced across the keyboard. Aegis wasn't just a project, it was a shield. She rewrote the entire user management protocol. Admin access now required biometric verification. She embedded a kill switch. If tampering was detected, the system would self-delete from any Ravel environment. And deep inside, she hid something else. A silent audit engine. Every unauthorized login, every file accessed, every byte downloaded, all logged, time-stamped, location tagged, identity mapped. Aegis didn't fight back. It waited. Because when the time came, Emily wouldn't scream. She'd press one button and watch them unravel. They thought they could steal her work and erase her name. But Emily Carter didn't leave breadcrumbs. She left evidence. Aegis wasn't just a platform. It was a trap with perfect memory. On the surface, it looked like a clean mirror of Ravel's system. Dashboards, architecture, implementation cadence, all business as usual. But under the hood, a silent surveillance engine was running non-stop. Every time Vivian accessed files outside her scope. Every time Mark pulled a report she was never authorized to view. Every masked credential trying to scrape algorithmic core logic, Aegis logged it. Timestamps, IPs, locations, behavioral tags, all of it. Emily didn't stop them. She let them move because her goal wasn't survival. It was proof, undeniable, time-stamped, weaponized. If they touch what doesn't belong to them, she wrote in her devlog, Aegis won't crash. It'll speak. In data, in law. Every extracted file, every unauthorized move would become evidence. And if they fired her, she wouldn't rage, she'd email and let the system testify. They didn't know what was buried in the contract, but Emily Carter did, because she wrote the clause that could bring the whole company down with one email. Emily didn't yell. She didn't demand a meeting. She didn't storm down the hallway or ask for clarity. Instead, she opened her laptop, signed in, typed slowly, deliberately. Subject confirmation, Clause 17B, Architectural Oversight, to Amanda Reeves, Centratech CIO. Hi, Amanda. As outlined in the Centratech Ravel Agreement, I'd like to reconfirm that platform deployment rights remain valid only under direct architectural oversight by the originating system architect, myself. Clause 17B is active and binding. Best, Emily Carter. No bold text. No red flags. No dramatics. Just the tripwire. Placed. 2 hours later, Amanda replied, Thanks, Emily. Clause acknowledged. Your continued technical leadership is essential to system integrity. We'll monitor any internal changes closely. Looking forward to continued collaboration. Emily smiled, not out of satisfaction, but because she had it in writing. Black and white proof. A legal nail. Mark and Vivian could keep playing their game. But now, one wrong step, and the whole board breaks. They thought firing her would be the end. But Emily Carter didn't just write the system. She wrote the rules. And Clause 17B? That was the bullet already chambered in the gun they didn't know they were holding to their own head. Most execs skim the fine print. Emily didn't. She didn't just architect the platform. She architected the insurance policy. Clause 17B, buried halfway down the contract, sandwiched between harmless licensing terms, was the detonator. It stated, all usage and deployment rights are contingent upon direct architectural oversight by the original system architect or their explicitly named successor. Absent such oversight, licensing is rendered null and void. No oversight, no license, no contract. Centratech could walk $800 million off the table, penalty-free. And the best part? Mark and Vivian had signed it. Didn't question it, didn't flag it, didn't understand it. Emily never reminded them. She never warned them. She just waited. Because when they finally made their move, cut her out, tried to white label her work, they wouldn't just be firing a brilliant engineer. They'd be triggering their own collapse. And Clause 17B wouldn't scream. It would whisper, game over. They thought they'd written her final chapter, but while they were still drafting her exit speech, Emily Carter had already opened the first page of something far bigger. It wasn't a scheduled call. No assistant. No formal intro. No one was copied. Just a direct line, straight to Lauren Kim, founder of Novacore, the quietly rising tech firm out of Boston. Emily didn't send a pitch deck, didn't lead with backstory. She opened with this. I've got a system. They're using it, but they don't own it, and they won't for long. There was a pause on the other end. Then Lauren said, I heard about Centratech. Nice move. Emily replied, voice steady, I've stripped and rebuilt the whole thing. What I have is clean, fast, and deployable tomorrow. But I'm not looking for a buyer. I'm looking for a partner. Lauren didn't say yes. She said, send me a non-binding overview and a 20-minute roadmap deck by noon tomorrow. Emily nodded like Lauren could see her through the line. You'll have it by 10. No small talk. No thank yous. She didn't need validation because she wasn't asking for permission. She was choosing her battlefield, this time on her own terms. They clapped like she was a hero, right after signing her offstage execution. But Emily Carter didn't come for applause. She came to pull the plug and walk out before the lights went black. The stage lights burned hot. The ballroom at the Westin buzzed with champagne, cameras, and curated applause. Emily Carter stepped forward, calm, collected, lethal in silence. In her right hand, an ivory envelope. It looked like a thank you card. Inside, her termination. Signed a full week ago. The MC's voice rang out like a scripted eulogy. Let's hear it for Emily Carter, the architect of Ravel's revival. Applause erupted. Executives smiled like they believed it. Mark Benson gave a half-hearted nod. Vivian Sloan stood just off stage, lipstick perfect, betrayal sharper. Emily lifted the crystal trophy. Cameras flashed. She took the mic. Thank you for the recognition. Thank you for letting me build something that mattered. But innovation isn't just about systems. It's knowing when to move forward and when to let go. The room paused. Too quiet. Too perfect. Emily smiled. She stepped back and walked off without looking behind. Because she knew, they handed her a trophy, and she handed them a farewell, written in code. She didn't shout. She didn't warn them. Emily Carter just typed a line of code, and in that moment, Ravel lost everything they thought they owned. Late night, 19th floor apartment. The city holding its breath. Emily poured a glass of red wine. Miles Davis played Low, a soundtrack for the surgical strike about to unfold. The laptop screen glowed. Terminal window open. The final command, waiting. aegisflink.sh. No explosions, no fireworks. Just green code cascading down the screen. Smooth, silent, irreversible. Node sync 100%. Analytics layer, migrated. Core modules, extracted. Remote override engaged. Deploying to Novacore. And then one line appeared. Brief. Cold. Unapologetic. I was never yours. Emily leaned back. No smile. No gloating. Just one feeling. Freedom. Ravel still had their system. The dashboard looked the same. The UI functioned. Reports still loaded. But underneath? It was hollow. The heart of the platform, the real intelligence, now lived on Novacore servers. What Ravel had left? A shell. Pretty, polished, and utterly powerless. They thought she'd stay quiet. But Aegis didn't. When Ravel crossed the line, the system didn't just detect it, it detonated. Monday, 10:07 a.m. Emily sat in a quiet cafe 5 blocks from Ravel HQ. Hood up, headphones in, Aegis dashboard glowing on her laptop screen, all green. Then, trigger detected, origin, Ravel HQ data ops. Event attempted system replication. Credentials, masked admin access. She didn't flinch, just took another sip of coffee. Aegis didn't warn, it executed. Protocol echelon activated. In less than 180 seconds, every unauthorized action was logged, internal accounts traced and mapped, Clause 17b attached, 3 airtight reports generated. And then, Aegis sent them. To the CC, Whistleblower Division, to CentraTech Legal Counsel, to Future Ledger, a leading tech watchdog outlet. No password, no disclaimer, just raw, unfiltered truth. Legally structured and impossible to ignore. The final line blinked on her screen. Execution complete. Report dispatched. This was never yours. Emily closed the laptop. Game over. Only this time, she wasn't the one losing. They thought they could erase her and walk away clean, but what they didn't realize, the silence they left behind was the sound of everything falling apart. 11:45 a.m. A text buzzed, short, from an old engineer. CentraTech pulled out. Full termination. Board's in panic mode. Emily didn't reply. She didn't need to. 1:20 p.m., CentraTech released a public statement. Due to breaches in system oversight and escalating legal risk, we are officially withdrawing from all contractual obligations with Ravel Systems. 3:30 p.m., Ravel's stock plummeted 42% in under 3 hours. Internal Slack threads leaked. Emails surfaced. A resignation draft by Mark Benson started circulating like wildfire. By 5 p.m., Vivian Sloan's profile was gone. No message. No goodbye. Just... And Emily? She sat in her apartment, sunset glowing through the windows, a mug of cold tea in her hand. No smug smile. No triumph. Just one thought. I warned them, with the clause they never bothered to read. You don't have to scream to reclaim power. You just have to know exactly when to let go and let gravity handle the rest. They once called her just a back-end mind. Now, her name leads headlines, her system leads companies, and her voice, unmistakable. 6 weeks after Ravel's collapse, the front page of TechPulse Weekly read, Novacore launches Athena Insight, built by Emily Carter. No footnotes, no co-credits, no anonymous contributions. Her name was the headline. Bold, unmistakable, unapologetic. Athena Insight, the evolution of Aegis, had launched across 2 energy firms and 1 government agency. Novacore didn't bury her behind the scenes. They put her out front to lead, to speak, to decide. At the product launch, a VC asked, what makes your system so different? Emily looked him in the eye, calm, certain, because this time, no one can erase my name from it. Silence, then applause. She wasn't the background genius anymore. She was the architect, the founder, the face. No titles needed, no permissions granted, just presence, earned, and finally, seen. Real power isn't loud. It doesn't ask for credit. It doesn't need an apology. Real power is when they can't ignore your name, even if they never say it out loud. The message came close to midnight. Unknown number. Just 1 line. Can we talk? Just us. There are things you don't understand. Emily stared at the screen. Vivian. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. She didn't need an apology. Didn't need an excuse. Didn't need to hear it wasn't just me. Or we didn't have a choice. Because Emily no longer lived in the world where she needed their permission to matter. Once, they pushed her out of the room. Now she built the whole damn building. Once, they edited her out of the narrative. Now she rewrote the rules. She opened her notes app, typed 1 line, I don't need them to remember my name, because now they don't get to forget it. Then she closed the phone, didn't delete the message, just left it there. A quiet reminder that she'd already won, without ever needing to be welcomed back. You don't need revenge to win. Sometimes, you just need to rise so high, they have to tilt their heads to see what they tried to bury. Emily stood on the top floor of Novacore Tower, where the sunset lit the glass walls like gold. Below was the city that once doubted her. Now it called, partnered, pitched, and asked for meetings. She hadn't changed her voice. She'd only changed her altitude. A young developer approached, holding the latest Athena Insight rollout report. A little nervous. Miss Carter, how did you know you'd make it through all of that? She set down her coffee, smiled, not softly, solidly. I didn't. I just knew, If I didn't stand up, they'd think I never could. She stepped out onto the balcony. The skyline no longer looked daunting. It looked earned. And in the silence of that moment, the words repeated. No longer a mantra, but a fact. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is walking away from injustice and building an empire of your own.